Hello, this is Dee Soflin with Let's Talk Rescue podcast. Today we have one of my favorite people in Lincoln, Nebraska, and that's Jaime Sanks. She owns and runs a travel business called Vacation Vibes. So Jamie's all over the world. She's travels all over the place and a lot of places repetitively. I'm not going to get into what she does because she's going to explain it better than I am. And when she is out around, she sees a lot of animals out there that are strays, just like we do here in the United States. So I'm going to let Jaime kind of walk through some of the things she's able to share with us so we can get some of her perspective on things. So here's Jaime Sanks from Vacation Vibes. Hi, Jaime.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. And you're one of my favorite people too.
Aw, thank you.
Appreciate you saying that too. So I'm the owner of Vacation Vibes Travel based in Lincoln, Nebraska. We have agents here in Lincoln. We have one in New York, and we build and manage people's dreams and send them around the world. We also travel ourselves as part of that to experience locations so that we can obviously send people firsthand experience when they travel. As you said, we do see a lot when we travel, just here where I would be bothered by seeing a stray cat or, different types of animals outside. You want to help no matter where you are. When you're out in another country, it becomes a little bit more challenging as what you can do, how you can help. And a lot of people think they can't help, they just have to see it and that's all they can do. If you stop, no matter where you go, almost, I shouldn't say everywhere, but almost everywhere you go, there is a rescue, there is a vet clinic, there is some type of organization, even if they're small, that is usually willing to help. Their biggest struggle is typically the financial part. So you as a traveler, if you're on a resort and you see an animal in need, if you can contact and just Google in the area and find out who there is that can help you, a lot of times they will assist. They just might need the financial help, a donation to help make it happen. But for example, the Caribbean islands, the one I travel to the most would be Jamaica, my favorite, my favorite island. And well, second favorite, I guess. I've got Jamaica and Iceland are my favorites. But traveling into the Caribbean, there is a lot of issue and need for animals. Unfortunately, they don't have the resources we have here. They don't have a whole lot of financial help to allow them to do what we want them to do. So the donations are huge. Jamaica has actually a rescue called Negril Pup Rescue, which primarily deals with dogs. There's a lot of street dogs in Jamaica, but they will help cats. There's Negril Spay Neuter Clinic, which is in Negril, Jamaica, who also helps with cats and helps Negril Pup Rescue. And then there's the JSPCA, and there's some veterinary clinics out of Montego Bay, which are really doing a great job in trying to help animals get back home with flight angels, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But the need and the just need for supplies and help for those rescues is huge. One thing that's really unique with Negril Pup Rescue, and unique that it happens to be on one of my favorite islands, is that one of the board members is from Lincoln. So we have a real close tie to Negril Pup Rescue through the board member in Lincoln. I visited Negril Pup Rescue a couple years ago, took down some supplies and went back actually to the rescue and was able to pet all the dogs. And they really do have a need because this is a couple from Canada who moved to Jamaica to try to help these street dogs. They're living in a very modest house and they put every penny they get towards these dogs to help. These dogs need shelter. They're outside, in Jamaican heat, in hurricane. They'll, shove as many of them as they can in their house, but they can't get them all in there. So if traveling to Jamaica, I would strongly encourage you to help Negril Pup Rescue, or if not traveling, they do have a page and you can certainly donate there, but they do need a lot of help. And then, as I mentioned with Flight Angels, you can fly back an animal, dog, cat, and it can be through Negril Pup Rescue, or it could be through one of the other organizations in Jamaica. But if you're willing to be what they call a flight angel, they take care of all the fees and you are just down there on vacation. And when you're coming back, you're offering to fly home one of the animals where there's somebody waiting either at the connection or back when you get home, then they've arranged transportation because they already have a rescue in the US or in Canada waiting for this animal. So there are options where you can help even without financial help or without bringing supplies. If you could just be a body to escort this animal home, they take care of all the certificates and they meet you at the airport and they just pass off the animal. When you go through customs, you already have and immigration, you already have all of the paperwork that you have to use to declare. It's an extra couple minutes. It's not a huge process. And then you can continue on. There's only certain airlines that allow that. So it's not every flight. American Airlines is one that does allow it. And then because Jamaica is so hot, a lot of these dogs have to go in cargo because they're larger and they won't do it during the heat of the summer, which is great. So there's a very small window of opportunity to get some of these animals out, whereas the cats and kittens can ride in the cabin with you when you fly back. So there's a lot of options of helping, whether it be ahead of time gathering up some supplies. If you're going to do that, I would encourage you to communicate with the rescue and see what it is they need so that you're not bringing down a bunch of stuff that they really don't need or that they could get there. And you have to make sure it's something that can go through customs. Like you can't be bringing, chicken and certain things through customs and immigration for
I
that.
think you always bring like cans of food because you're going to see certain cats
I do
at
stuff that,
places,
yeah,
if
for
I
me,
remember
when I'm
right.
on resort, I do, because I'm the person who will be with all the children on resort, gathering up, like whether I go and get a chicken strip meal and then I'm shredding it up and giving it to the cats. That's what I used to always do. And then I was like, you know what? It's a lot easier if I just throw a couple cans of Fancy Feast into my bag and then I throw one in my purse. And when I'm out and I see them, I can just plop out of the can. I don't leave the can there and litter. I just dump the food out, throw the can away, and then they have actual food that they can eat instead of eating shred chicken. But yes, I do feed them always when I travel. And I've learned that traveling with the food is a lot easier than ordering it, chicken strips, waiting for it to cool, shredding it.
Right.
A lot
Probably
of
less
the,
expensive too, really.
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, exactly. Well, when you're at an all inclusive, a lot of times it's all inclusive, so it's on them. But I actually, after my last trip, I talked to them, and it was at a chain that I used to work for, and I said, "Listen, when I worked here before, we had a lot of ear-tipped cats for a while prior to owning, my travel agency. I worked for a major resort chain." In the Caribbean, and they were really great about doing TNR and fixing their animals. Lately, unfortunately, that hasn't been the case. And when I went back last time, they had so many little kittens and they were pregnant. And it was just, it crushed me because while other people were like, oh, cute kittens, that just killed me because it shouldn't be happening. Now, there were still some that were ear tipped, but not enough. And it needed to have a stronger presence. This was shortly after 2020. So I can say, okay, things shut down and they didn't have the resources. I have since been trying to work with that company to get back to what they were doing with taking care of the cats. After that trip, I did get them to start making their feeding stations again, simply because I said, you're an all-inclusive resort and I'm going to tell you, people like me and children, and it's not just me and children, there were some other adults, but mostly me and children, are going to go order chicken strips, which you are paying for as a company, because this is an all-inclusive resort where all of the food and drinks are included. So you as a company are paying for me to feed the cats food that you're paying for, which is a lot more expensive than if you just buy some cat food and put it out. So I talked to them about the vacuum effect and how you don't overfeed, you put enough out for what's there so that they're able to eat and not draw in others, but just sustain what you have there so that they're being taken care of. And then they can put up signs that say, please don't feed the cats, because people can see they're taken care of and that they have places to eat. So they did send me back some pictures that they did create some feeding stations, which is something they used to do years ago. And I think just management changed and it just wasn't happening as much. So now when my team travels, I ask them to take pictures whenever they see the cats. I'm like, take pictures, let me know the approximate ear tip ratio you're seeing to non-tipped, because that kind of tells us who's taking care of their animals and who isn't. And for me, I'll be honest, it's important. As a person vacationing who loves animals, I don't want to go somewhere that's not taking care of their animals. I want them to fix the problem, but I also don't want to go there. And I know the last time when I was at this particular resort where we were seeing an overabundance of animals, there was, people of all ages just really bothered by it. And so I shared that, with the resorts, but you have to be careful who you share that with. because unfortunately in the Caribbean and Mexico, they're not always humane about the way they deal with things. And it's not always just a humane trap, neuter, and return. It can be a euthanization, and that's obviously not the goal. So you have to be very
Right.
careful who you say it to, because if it comes off as complaint or bothersome, they're going to eliminate, because they don't understand that even if they eliminate, they're all going to come back. And so I did send a lot of literature again about the vacuum effect, which of course is you will never get rid of every cat. So the more you draw them out, the more are going to keep coming in. If you just fix the established cats that are there, they will maintain their colony, and the other ones aren't necessarily going to come flooding in because there's already an established colony there. So I've really tried to make them aware of that so that they know they can't just keep getting rid of cats. That's not going to work. They need to fix what they have, and then they'll stop getting an overpopulation of cats if they do their part on the resort. Plus, other people will see that they're taking care of their animals. So there's a lot of ways, that you can help, and that's some of them.
And do you have any suggestions? Okay, so what would you say you and your team average at one, let's just say Jamaica, is that what you said?
Yeah.
Let's just say you go there how many times a year, you and your team all together?
Oh, between me and the five of us, I mean, we're easily there 7, 8, 10 times. I mean, it just depends what we have going on in
Not
a
quite
year.
monthly.
I mean, there can be a year, depending on how much I have going on. There can be a year where I'm in Jamaica, 3, 4 times. When I used to work for the company I worked for prior to opening this, I was there
A
15,
lot.
16 times a year. Yeah.
I was just wondering because you're kind of overseeing them from abroad, from a whole another
Oh, and I have
country.
eyes on them. Yeah, I have eyes
Yeah.
on them too, because if I'm not there and my clients are there, my clients all know how nutty I am about cats. So we don't
Oh,
have to
that's
pretend.
awesome.
We don't have to pretend that I'm not. And
We
I
don't
will.
call that nutty. We call that
they they know that I
bringing.
embrace my crazy cat lady name. Just it's not an insult. I will embrace it. But I do have other people when they're down there,
Right.
other colleagues saying, "Hey, tell me what you see on ear tips," and they will take pictures and
Oh,
report
that's
back.
wonderful.
Some resorts do it better than others, and our goal is to just try and get the ones, especially the ones who have the financial means, to kind of step it up and do their part. Not every
Right.
resort can do it. Not every person can help in Jamaica, but there's a lot of resources, and there are a lot of resorts that can do better, and our goal is that they will do better. So
Okay.
that's what we're going for. Hi, Kitty.
That's my 15-year-old foster girl Tipper.
Yeah.
Well, I was just wondering if there's any, I know in the beginning you said, to be proactive and reach out to different rescues locally, but do you think that it's a good or bad thing for them to mention something to a resort that they might be at if they're not involved with you? Or is there something to help basically to have extra help to make
Yeah.
sure these cats are being taken care of without?
I think that if you know, I think it's better to reach out. If you're not familiar with the area, I think it's better to reach out to the rescue in the area, or if there's, a spay clinic in the area, or an basically equivalent of ASPCA, which in Jamaica is JSPCA. And not just picking on Jamaica. I'm using Jamaica because we have a tie back home in Lincoln,
Sure.
but finding out who the local rescue is there, or the local organization who might deal with this most, and seeing what they think would be good, or contact to reach out to, if you're willing to offer assistance. If you're just willing, simply saying, I don't like this isn't right, they're going to hear this as, oh, this is a complaint and it's hurting our business, and they're going to want to eliminate. So if you
Right.
have a solution, if you're calling with a solution, reach out to them first and say, what do you think? Who do you think? How can we tackle this? Versus just calling the hotel to complain, because calling the hotel to complain, they're going to see it as, we need to eliminate, much like, unfortunately, if you had mice around. Now, the plus side is a lot of these resorts do like having cats around, because they're in the middle of the rainforest and there are rodents. With
Sure.
cats around, they're able to keep down the bug and rodent population naturally. So a lot of these resorts do actually like having the cats around for that purpose. There, you'll get some clients that will complain because they're allergic to cats, and I can understand that, but if they're not coming in the room, the reality is, if you don't have cats around, you're probably going to see mice and, lizards and
Sure.
giant cockroaches and everything else in between. So having the cats around is somewhat of a normal elimination, kind of much like a working cat in a barn here. They are working cats. They just get the resort life and a giant
Right.
litter box on the beach. No, they're that's yeah, no. I've
Yeah, no,
never
I
run
was just
into
curious
yeah,
because I think the main thing then you're saying is just be cautious on who you reach out to or how
absolutely.
you do it because and I'm just going to throw this out, not going to mention anything, but I know that there were colonies that I've heard the small towns or whatever wherever they're at actually use antifreeze to kill off these kittens and cats, and that's a cruel way to kill them off. I mean, first off, it's just inhumane, but I mean, I that's why what Jamie's saying is to be really cautious how you bring it about. I mean, just take little steps and reach out to any local rescue. And if wherever you are, they don't have a local rescue, maybe I don't know what would they do if they don't have a local rescue close by. I
If
would
they
assume
don't
they
have,
would.
yeah, if they don't, a vet clinic, I mean, a local vet
Vet
clinic
clinic.
would probably be the next thing. There is also an international spay and neuter group that travels around and they will come in. It's a bunch of vets. They will come in. I've spoken to them to try and see, what we can do to support kind of what they're doing. They're a massive group and they will come into again, and it was all in regards to Jamaica. They will come into different Caribbean and Mexico, and I'm sure probably other places in the world, and as an entire group of veterinarians and techs from all around will come together and mass TNR
Wow.
these
So they
resorts.
travel?
They do. The hardest part for them is to get the medication, because the reason I spoke to them and see, they would be a good resource to say, hey, have you been into this area? What do you know? Are you guys planning on going into this area? How can we help? That would be a really good resource. And the reason that I reached out to them is that within my agency, fortunately, one of my girls is a registered vet tech. She keeps up on her license, and she loves animals, wants to keep that foot in the door, but she loves the job that she does with us. So we're kind of colliding the two worlds. I'm like, well, how convenient and how great that it just happened to be that, she was not obviously hired here for that, but I love that I love more that she
Right.
is. And I, didn't even realize that at the time when she was coming in, but we have her and other groups, obviously with my ties to the rescue world here locally, we have a whole group of people who are willing to go into resorts. Right now I've got 2 to 3 vets and at least 3 to 4 vet techs, along with groups of cat trappers who can go into the resorts and do one of these, mass trappings in a day and return to the resort, do it humanely. They can be done on property. So I was calling the spay neuter clinic to try and get everything in order, making sure we had the whole plan before I presented it to them, so that I could speak knowledgeably about it and not just like, well, we want to do this, but we don't know how. I wanted to make sure they knew the entire plan. And the biggest challenge that we would have, and also the biggest challenge that they have, is getting the drugs in, enough drugs there for the procedures, because you can't fly them in there, even though they're veterinarian, vet techs and vets, they can't fly there with it because it's a narcotic. So they have to be able to get it there, and there's only so much that you can get there on the island. So it's a little bit of a process, and that's honestly the biggest challenge in doing them. But a lot of these trap neuter returns can be done on resort if resorts are willing to open up 2 rooms, air conditioned rooms that maybe they're getting ready to refurbish or whatever, and you just need it for 2 days. Then you don't have to take over to a clinic. This procedure can actually be done right there at the hotel.
Right. And
That's
less stressful for the cats
a lot
too.
less stressful for the cats, a lot less moving around, and and then keeping people who maybe haven't been to that country, the vets and vet techs, comfortable with not having to leave the resort to do all this.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a small group that's willing to do it. It's getting the resorts. One, it's finding who can get the medication, and 2, it's getting the resorts to respond. They're all kind of in when we're talking about it. And then we'll get back to you. And then it's like, okay, the ball's dropped. So I'm kind of loud on their pages on Facebook, and, they know it's me. I used to work there also. I am not using a fake profile. And I will just openly say, we have people willing to do this. From me commenting on those Facebook groups, I've had vets reach out to me saying, add me to the list. I'll be part of this if you can
Nice.
do it. Unfortunately, they just haven't opened that door. So we're going to reach out. I had to take a pause in it last year from some other stuff going on, but this year there's another group, and we're just going to kind of hit a different area and see if they're willing to do it, because why not? If you have a whole group of people willing to do this for free, volunteer their time to come there and do this for free, why not? The resort has to give them a room to stay and then a room to do this procedure in, and that's really all it is out to the resort. But they're looking good to their clients because they're taking care of animals, they're taking care of the problem humanely, and they'll probably prevent further problems of an influx of a bunch of animals, fighting animals, sick animals coming in, because these ones would be vetted and kind of warding off the other animals. So when you say yes, you have to be careful of who you're talking to. Again, like the small towns here, if they're not, a lot of people's first thought process is elimination. That will never solve the problem. You will never get rid of every cat. And
Exactly.
fortunately, for our groups here that we have, they've made a lot of great progress in speaking to the city councils and getting them to acknowledge. And, specifically, I'm going to call out Carly from BHS. She went and spoke to one of those towns, which again, I'm not going to mention here just because, but she went and I was there, and she was absolutely amazing. And what she said, immediately they signed on the spot a contract with her to now allow the TNR instead of inhumanely eliminating animals. So that was really impressive. And if you can get just the education out there to a lot of these places, that's half the battle. Once they see and understand that you cannot get rid of everything and there is actually a solution to the problem, they're usually willing to do it. It's the education that's huge. So I would say, again, if you have nowhere within the destination you're at to reach out to, then the International Spay Neuter group, which maybe I can find the link and, get that linked with you, would be a good resource. Obviously, not to overwhelm them with a ton of information, but just to kind of find out. And maybe, I'm sure they probably take donations too to help their cause. Maybe it could be something that people could reach out to them and also help make some donations to just further their cause, because what they're doing is huge and it's so important. I know they do Jamaica regularly. I don't know what other locations they go to regularly, but I do know it's a thing that they travel around and do, and it's a full group that's been established for years.
Sorry, I was going to let the cat through. Well, one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to put all of these, coming through. I'm going to put all of these stretch mid. I'm going to put all of the websites and the contact information up as you're speaking of these. And then at the end of this, I'm going to go ahead and just do a list of all of these places that Jamie has mentioned, like Beatrice Humane Society, the International, what'd you call it? Then the
PCA.
Yeah.
And there's this really great, and I can't think of it off the top of my head, but this woman, and I'm going to make sure that she's noted in there, that she's in your list. She is fighting for these animals in Jamaica like nobody else. The minute she sees that there's something on property and there's a guest that loves this animal, she's there advocating and trying to make it happen so they can get home. And then she's trying to find flight angels. So I would love to connect her group of where she needs flight angels, because again, it costs you nothing. And then the Girl Pup Rescue having ties to Lincoln, I think that's important.
Yep, I've been to a few events that had them as one of the recipients for the donations or the fundraising. One other thing too, I was going to just say, and maybe you've already thought through that, but is like when somebody is at a resort and then you actually, or even if it's not somebody that's actually partaking in the vacation, I would think that if you could get a resort to bring these animals, or to donate those 2 rooms for a couple of days to have all of that spaying and neutering done, maybe a good thing to do is take video of it and then post it on this resort's website and let them, that's big stuff. Because personally, obviously I'm an animal person, but if I know a resort is taking care of their strays or the colonies and the dogs, any of that, I'm going to be more likely to go to that resort than I am one that doesn't care.
And
just some ideas.
Same with selling it too. Our job is to promote these resorts, and when I know a particular resort isn't caring for their animals, it doesn't make me really want to support them very much either. Yeah. And so it's kind of a twofold, and we absolutely would promote, a lot of it, showing, hey, look what they're doing. And I know it would go very positively, because there's nothing but good that comes out of it. So I'm not done with them, and they know me. They know I'm going to nag them to death until we get this done. So
do they call that relentless?
Yeah, they know that. I mean, I worked there for years and I did the same thing, except for I didn't really nag them about animals when I worked there because at that time everything was being, you know, they were taking care of them. But we did a lot of fundraising for them. So they know that they know my heart's there. They know it's there for the right reason. Pain in the butt to them right now, but they know it's with a purpose and a good reason. Hopefully
Right.
they'll come around. I'm going to still bug them a little bit more. I will say that traveling, we've obviously go all over the Caribbean. There's a really great in St. Lucia, a really great rescue that does a lot too. Turks and Caicos has a dog rescue where you can go check out the dogs for a day and walk them. So you can go into their place, their pot cakes, and take out their dogs and take them on a walk. And so they've made that a form of tourism and to also get people interactive and at least helping with the animals there and hopefully falling in love and bringing them back. So there's a lot because the Caribbean is considered rabies free. When you take an animal from the Caribbean, they do not have to quarantine back in the US when they get back here. So you do have to, there is a procedure, like if you're on vacation and you fall in love with an animal, there is a procedure where you have to get them a certificate from the Department of Agriculture or their version of it, which the vet clinics can help with if you give them enough notice. And then they have to get, checked out, get their shots, get their vaccines, whatever.
Health
And then,
certificate and all
yeah,
that.
health certificate, come back because it's not a rabies free country or because they're considered rabies free. They don't have to go into a 10-day quarantine or anything like that. So that's huge in getting an animal back. If it's the other way from the US to another country, a lot of times your animal has to spend 10 days in quarantine. And if you don't get the right documentation before you go, they're in this limbo, and that's not a good place to be. So you have to make sure that it's done the correct way. So you can even, as a person, decide you want to bring home an animal, not through a rescue. You would probably want to reach out to make sure you follow the correct procedures, but it is pretty good. Honestly, I would have come home with a kitten last time I was there, but I couldn't get the appointment. They couldn't get me the appointment. And even when we showed up, I'd already been messaging my other girls that I work with, and I'm like, okay, I've got this cat. I'm working on my end on the appointment. And the other girl's like, okay, I'll secure the animal spot for you on your flight, so it's all ready. And I forgot she did that when we went to check in at the airport. They're like, okay, and I see you have a cat reserved also. My husband's looking at me like, I was like, I told you I wasn't joking. I mean, you might have thought I was kidding on the fact that I was bringing this cat home, but what you didn't see is the behind the scenes, everything I was doing to try and make it happen. Obviously, I would have told him if it all panned out, but it didn't pan out. But I forgot that we had made that reservation, so it was pretty funny when we went to check in, and he's looking at me like,
Are you like, what?
"Oh God, where is she going to pull this cat out of?" Yeah.
Man, I didn't even see it. Yeah, that's awesome. And I'm going to also put our my email address up here too. And if there's anything, I mean, to be honest, if you're watching this, you most likely are an animal lover. And if you're wanting to travel, and to me, that would be like an extra added bonus to be able to go to a resort or somewhere, where they love animals too. And you can see that. So, maybe check out the Vacation Vibes and talk to Jamie or one of her folks there, and then that way, you know where you're going as animal kind. I don't know. I guess that's the way to put it. So, and then as far as the guidelines for any place like that, if somebody is interested in knowing what those guidelines are, I can just email and I can get that from Jamie and be very happy to send that, or email Vacation Vibes and ask for Jamie, and I'm sure you could give them that same information, but she's in the vacation business, so maybe just email me and I can find that out for you. So,
And
but
we do
yeah,
not book animal tourism. That is one thing we're really strongly against. So a lot of times people, probably the biggest tour that is asked for when people go is dolphin swims. They want to swim with the dolphins. I understand it looks cute. It's nice. You think it's nice. It's actually really cruel. They confine them to a very small
agree.
spot that should not house a dolphin. Their conditions are not great. Unfortunately, once they've grown up that way, they can't be released into the wild. So our goal is we hope this phases out so they don't keep getting new dolphins. I mean, they can't just release what they have, unfortunately. It's a miserable way of life for them. So we will not do anything like that. We won't sell it. If somebody asks us to, they have to book it on their own because it's not something we will do. We do have sometimes links to tour companies where people can book their own tours. We make it very clear we don't book animal tourism, but on the off chance somebody gets a hold of that link, and we've had it happen just once so far where somebody did book a dolphin swim with it. then all of the girls in the group agree, we're all 100% in agreement. We take that commission and we donate it to the Humane Society. So our local Humane Society here got a donation for somebody booking a dolphin swim because we won't keep any profit from animal tourism, even if it comes in accidentally. So they get to profit off of it, and our Humane Society at least gets that. But we will not do that. We won't do the big game hunts, anything with an animal in confinement. We're not taking part in, and we've turned down a lot of business for it. I just say ethically, where my heart is with animals, I can't also sell stuff that goes against what the cause we're trying to work back here. So that's kind of what we do. And we love what we do for travel, but we also love our animals. So trying to bring the two worlds together and just travel responsibly. And if you can just help before you go, you can help back home by donations. But if you're traveling and you can help before you go, just reaching out and seeing what supplies they need. I had somebody make up a bunch of really great dog beds for Negro Pup Rescue in Lincoln. Awesome. And they made up dog beds, and I took those down. So you have to be a little careful with customs and immigration, because sometimes they think you're trying to come in and sell supplies, then they'll tax you on what you're bringing in. So there's a thing, Pack for a Purpose, that you can Google and look up, and there's a certain amount of free weight. You're supposed to be able to bring like 5 pounds extra without being charged by the airlines. Unfortunately, I found that a lot of airlines don't really know about this, so you should probably print it out and bring it, or just know you might get charged if you're overweight. But they're supposed to know that you can have 5 pounds of supplies, whether it be for orphanage, hospital, school supplies. Sure. Animal supplies. Any nonprofit. Pack for a Purpose is a website you could Google and look and see if that could help you if you're bringing down animal supplies. But again, you don't want to bring shredded chicken in a bag or anything like that, or you're going to get in trouble in customs. So there's a lot of things you just need to make sure you're doing carefully, and probably read through that to make sure you don't have issues when you're trying to help. Okay, well, we'll add that to the list at the end, and I'll also have it popped up here, in our discussion. Pack for a Purpose. Awesome. Is it a website? Yes. Yep. Yeah. Okay. Yep. And it has all different destinations, so you can select the country you're going to, and then it will even tell sponsoring hotels who participate in this. It will give a list of items that they kind of need, and then you can just bring it. And if you don't want to go to the organization that you're donating to, that particular hotel will get it to the right place. That's wonderful. That's great. Yeah, I mean, if I can just throw in one or two things about you personally. So I've only known you maybe 4 years, 3 years, something like that. I met you through another group that I was fostering for before I started my own animal rescue, and your reputation preceded you. I mean, big time. It totally preceded you about how wonderful you are with cats. And the thing I respect so much about Jamie is that she doesn't really, say she's with any particular rescue here in Lincoln, or anywhere for that matter. You are one of those people that you spread the wealth, so to speak. You donate a little to everybody so that, you can help out the different rescues. And I know that you do a lot of networking. And I can say personally, with when I fostered and now with our rescue, that her networking is vital. We need people like Jamie for the networking, because you connect the places you're aware of with other rescues or other entities that aren't aware of it. It comes out with it ends up with a good outcome. And I've always had a high regard for you and a huge respect for what you do, because you've kind of stayed out of it, in a sense that you don't say you're with this rescue. You help them all. And I just really think that's great. I just wanted to give you that kudos. Thank you. I appreciate that. I know whenever somebody's like, well, who are you with? And I'm like, I'm a free agent. I'm a free agent. Free agent. I love it. Floats around and helps everybody, because in some cases, the people who know me, obviously the rescue world who knows me, I don't have to justify that. But when it's somebody who doesn't know me, they think, they're like, well, you're not with somebody, so why do we want to talk to you? I do have that sometimes come up, and I won't obviously sit there and justify myself, because I can maneuver around and do what I need to do and still help out without saying I'm in with any one particular group. And I do like to just help everybody. And you have good connections. I mean, honestly, you have great connections. I mean, when we started our rescue, we were at a loss for because we all know that you're not going to get $500 for a cat or a kitten for adoption, right? But you could have $500 in that cat for medication, spay and neuter, and all of that. And so
because of you, we were able to get connected with a lower cost spay neuter so that we could at least be even on it as opposed to being way in the red. But
Yeah,
that's something that was vital for us. We were
I'm
grateful for
happy.
you.
Happy
Yeah,
that worked, and I love everything that you're doing, and especially that, that cats are also a focus, because I love all
absolutely.
animals, but we all know,
Same.
my heart's with the cats the most, and there's not a ton of rescues that will focus on cats, but there's more in Lincoln now, and I'm
Yeah,
happy to say that more people, and the focus on TNR, because honestly, it starts with TNR. If we can reduce the number of animals that are out there needing help, then it helps, trickle down effect into everything. And there's less animals that need to be adopted and need homes. There's always going to be people who own cats and dogs who don't spay and neuter, and they're, procreating. But half the battle, at least with the cats, is all of the outdoor cats procreating without stopping that. So I
that
think,
have
there's,
owners is
yes,
what. Yeah,
exactly.
I mean, because
Exactly.
we can all work on the colonies and the strays and all of that, but when you have people that are like, well, my cat has to go outside, she can't
Mhm.
be inside all the time, and you're like going, is she spayed? No. Well, you're
Yeah.
going to end up with kittens, and yeah, they're cute, but there's plenty
Yeah.
of them.
What I always say is people who want cute kittens around, go foster for somebody, because you can have all the cute kittens around all the time you want, and then you can pass them off as they're ready to be adopted, and then you can re-foster again, and
Start all
all the
over.
supplies, yeah, the supplies are covered, and you get to just play with kittens and love on them and have cute little kittens around. But there's,
Yep.
unfortunately, yeah, we've just got to get that mind frame changed, and if we can, that reduces the total number of animals. But what kind of something you said, and we were talking about this actually this weekend with another group of cat people, Karen and I and Marlene were having this discussion, that, a lot of times people say, well, we're focusing on the feral cats, and is this cat feral to be able to fix? But yes, but also there's community cats who are spreading to the reproduction. So honestly, we need to fix them all who aren't fixed, whether they're feral or not feral. And I get the flip side is that places don't want to fund somebody's pet to get fixed. That's not fair to the organization either. But there's got to be some in between, because otherwise that person, if they're not fixing their cat, is just as much of a problem as a feral cat who's out there unfixed.
Yep. And I know there's a local rescue, Brave Animal Rescue. I saw they have a thing going on right now where they're offering to get discounted spay neuter and things like that. So you can always check with your local rescues if you need some assistance. I know Capital Humane Society has a vet clinic that is for folks that maybe don't have $400 or $300 to
Right.
spay and neuter. They can go through there, and it goes off of a sliding scale for your income, I believe, doesn't it? Do you know for
It
sure?
is.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
yeah.
is.
So there are clinics
There's
out there.
also vouchers, Lincoln
Yep.
Animal Ambassadors and different voucher programs who will help with a spay neuter, because not only does it add to all of our issues that we have, but it puts your cat's health at risk if they're not fixed and they're having, repeated litters. They're at a higher risk of having cancer. So,
Yeah, that's
there's
true.
a lot of importance to getting them fixed.
Yeah, and then there's another. I know for us, we're going to Brave already started it, and several other rescues where they have a fund that is specifically to go towards people. I mean, in today's world, people are losing their jobs. So, we, as in, I think any animal rescue, but definitely Max Raven Animal Rescue, we would rather see you keep your cat or dog
Absolutely.
and be able to, buy you food or get you food or whatever it is you need than to get rid of your cat. I mean,
Right.
we're always willing to help. There was somebody that reached out a couple months ago that has a diabetic cat. She lost her job. She couldn't afford the insulin and the syringes, and we bought the syringe. So we're going to be creating a fund through ours called Max's Fund.
Cute.
So, but we're not quite there yet. But we will help if we're able to, for anything like that. Just because we'd rather see the cat or dog stay where they're at than end up in a shelter or a rescue.
Yeah, and sometimes it comes down to somebody needing to rehome their animal because they're not physically able to scoop a litter box or things like that. And if that comes up, litter robot. And I know those are expensive, but maybe groups can donate towards those. I've actually had made a few donations to people physically challenged that were otherwise going to have to get rid of their cat. And I said, well, if you had this, would this make the difference? And they're like, oh, absolutely. Because my son could come over once a week and empty the litter the litter pail thing, and then I could keep my cat. And so, just sometimes thinking outside the box on how we can try, yes, goal number one, keep the animal with the people,
Yeah.
even if it costs a little bit, is a lot better than what it will cost financially to take that cat even into a rescue and get it evaluated and treated to be able to go out in adoption. That's usually a higher financial obligation. Or two, not having the room for it, three, our shelters being full. So yes, primarily if you can just keep it with the owner, if you can solve the problem, unless it's an ongoing problem that will never be solved with that owner. But if it's something where you can just fix, like the little robot did, and be able to keep a cat with their owner, it's less stressful for the animal too. And then that owner gets to have their animal, because both of these cases, they were heartbroken to get rid of it. They just couldn't physically keep it up. So it did
Yeah.
the difference. So yeah, I'm glad there's all these new things out there. I'm glad you're participating in them and helping and trying to keep animals with owners. And I appreciate everything you do, because there's
Thank you.
such a need for all of this. And
Yeah.
hopefully,
And
one
that's
day,
new.
yeah,
That's a
yeah,
new one for me with a litter robot.
oh,
Wouldn't have
yeah,
even thought of that. Wouldn't have even
yeah,
thought of that. So that's
yeah.
good. That's good brain food. I've got that in my head now.
Yeah, yeah.
But
And
yeah,
I can connect you with somebody who will work with rescues on certain things too. So I'll get you that person's
that's
email too.
one. Yeah, that's wonderful. That's
Yeah.
wonderful. Yeah, I think anything that brings less stress and anxiety to an animal is better. And especially in my opinion, and it's any animal, but in my opinion, when somebody's had an animal for 15 years and it's something that is fixable, something that we can help them with, as opposed to like the 3 senior cats that I have here, where the owner passed away. And, that's a different scenario. There's
Yeah.
no way to keep the animal, or the animals, but, I'd rather see them stay with their owners, just like you
Yeah.
were saying. So,
Well, and in the case of somebody passing away, not to get totally off topic, but it's so important to have that plan ahead of time, because I, again, being the nutty, crazy cat person that I am, my cats are in my will, and they are a package deal. They are part of the house. They stay with the house. If unfortunately my whole family goes, something happens, then we have the backup plan in that scenario. Obviously, if something happens to me and my husband, the kids take the cats, and of course we wouldn't have to even explain, or that wouldn't even be an issue. But if something happened to the entire family, people have to have a plan. These are your children. You have to have a plan. If you have people. Now some people don't have anybody, and you can't fault them for that. They just don't. But maybe in
right.
those cases they could talk to a rescue and say, in the event of my death, if I donated XYZ, would you care for my animals? And that would be huge, because then the rescue would know they were taken care of, and they would know their cats are taken care of. So having a plan is so huge. I have that plan because, again, we travel a lot, and we're not invincible when we travel. And if God
No.
forbid something ever happened to my entire family traveling, I want to know that my cats are taken care of.
Yeah.
They're good. So we do have like scenario A, B, and C taking for all of this if something does come up. Have scenario A, B, and C if anything does come up, and I think it is important.
Yeah. No, I agree. That's the way I feel about it too. I mean, I have 3 dogs and 5 cats of my own, and that's not even counting the fosters. But I think the main thing is that, like what we do at the animal rescue that I have, is that we don't, and I'm not saying that other rescues do have issues with seniors adopting, but in my opinion, seniors almost need an animal more than some other folks, right? I mean, they're
Yeah.
lonely. It's the time of life where maybe the kids don't come and visit all the time, whatever. But in my opinion, we created this anyone over 70. It's called Vintage Treasures, and it's an adoption application. I'm sorry, contract that we will take our animal back if
Love
none of
that.
if your family isn't able to care for it. Obviously, they have the top priority. I'm sorry about my dogs. They hear me. And that way we would take them back if the family wasn't able to, in the case
I
of
love
their
that you
death.
do that. And I think that's huge, because, like you said, if, somebody's elderly and lonely and they want to have an animal, but they don't want to take on a new animal, knowing that they don't know how much, whatever their age range is or medical situation is, they don't know how much time that they would be around. I think it's huge to have a fallback plan if they would otherwise not adopt. And that might give them a chance to their animal right out their life, and also give them the companionship they need. So I do love that you do that.
Yeah. Well, and if you think about it, I mean, what a perfect scenario, a senior adopting a senior.
Yeah.
I mean, that's even better because, that's a less likely scenario where the animal will outlive the person or not, or not. I mean, we're just trying to, every rescue, it's not just this one, but every rescue's trying something, to
Yeah.
make it work because we've just got so many animals in shelters and rescues are full. And, every time you have to say no, it's
Yeah.
horrible.
Yeah.
But yeah, and so what else do you got to share? You said something you wanted to share about your about the flight angels, or
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Just that if you, well, I kind of touched on that a little bit, but if
yeah,
you're going to any destination, typically the different rescue groups, there's a need for what they call flight angel, where they will, whether it's be a rescue group or the veterinarian clinic that's working with animals on resorts, getting them off, they will have the animal all ready to go, meet you at the airport. All they're asking for is for you to be the one to physically take possession of the animal and meeting at the airport and then getting it to wherever you're going. Or sometimes if you're connecting in Dallas, they'll have somebody waiting there in Dallas, and so you'll just instead of you'll throw your bag to be rechecked again, and then you'll exit the airport real quick, pass off the animal, go right back through. You have to go back through TSA and security anyway, so after you get through immigration and customs, you're going to be exiting the airport anyway and having to go back through security. The way it works in an airport, typically you would just veer off and go right into that line. Well, it's an extra 5 minutes. They're going to be waiting outside the door. You pass off the animal, you come back in and go right through security, and you're on your way, and you've now been able to pass that animal off to the right person. So it's already lined up. It's much like doing here transports for animal. It's very calculated, and depending which rescue in the US or in Canada is taking the animal, it might be a case where they fly all the way back home with you. Like there was a situation where we were going to help a dog back to Iowa. Somebody ended up getting it sooner, but I was like, well, I don't live in Iowa, but I live in Nebraska, and that's close enough to where we can connect up. So we're trying to make and put literature in our clients' travel information that talks about this. So in case they do want to do it, they know it's there and it exists, and they could help another animal. So that's important. They do need a lot of those, and especially this time of year, this time in the fall and winter, because when it comes summer in the Caribbean, it's entirely too hot to fly those animals in cargo. And again, if it's a little cat, they can go in the aircraft, but they have to be in the little, zip up
carrier.
carrier thing. Otherwise, they have to go in cargo. And again, fortunately, airlines will not fly them in cargo during the heat of the summer, which I'm happy that they don't do that. But
That is awesome. I didn't know that
yeah.
it was not allowed. I thought that they just didn't
Well, at
have
least Jamaica
rules.
will not. I don't know if it's every place, but Jamaica will not do it for the heat of the summer. So
Wow.
that's awesome. I guess I don't know that every place holds that rule, if it's an airline policy or if it's the country policy, but Jamaica will just do it seasonally. So that's, something. But even then, if you can't fly back, you could always, if you're planning a trip for the fall, you can arrange it all, or say, hey, I'm coming down in September. Is there an animal you want me to fly home with? And even though, you don't have to wait until right when you're getting ready to travel. It could be arranged well in advance, because maybe there was somebody who tried or wanted their animal home over the summer, but couldn't get it home over the summer. With puppies, they're a little bit different because they have to have so many vaccines before they can get onto the plane. So it's a little bit longer of a process for a puppy, but that sometimes is enough of a time to arrange it in advance for somebody flying out during the season it's allowed in to take them
Yeah.
home.
And I think that's fairly similar. Well, obviously there's going to be a little bit more red tape, but I know when we pull dogs or cats from other states, in order to cross that state line, they have to have a health certificate.
Yeah.
So I'm sure it's the same scenario. Just,
Yeah.
they have to have their rabies, which you were saying that it's rabies free in Jamaica, but those kind of things, which is good because then you're getting a dog or a cat that is already taken care of. And I'm happy to share the animal friendly airlines. I don't have a problem with that.
I will get you the links for the Facebook pages of some of these different organizations that they could just join Facebook groups and see. I'll tell you, it broke my heart, but at the same time that I was happy, and I immediately sent off a donation, which I knew helped them. Negril Spay Clinic. Somebody found a teeny tiny kitten on the sand just a couple days ago. Just a tourist found it and said, "Can somebody please help?" And they posted it on their page, and they said, "We'll be there in 10 minutes. We're on our way." And they did. They took the little kitten,
Wow.
and this kitten probably was a week old at most. I mean, it was tiny, tiny. Now, there's no way I would have left that thing. But I know, again, because you don't know what to do when you're in another country, I'm really glad that these people did know enough to get on that page and post, and they did get the help they needed for it. So that was awesome.
Yeah, I love people like that. I love
I
it. If
know.
we didn't have the good Samaritans out there, a lot of these animals would not get to us. I mean,
Yeah.
we need those people to be proactive and really, push and help.
Yeah, and there's just a lot of pages too that if you interact with and they're legitimate pages, which again, I can give some of those links to, just so that you know. And then again, even if you can afford to throw a couple bucks their way here and there, it helps.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
obviously we
$5,
want to keep,
$10, 25, whatever you can afford.
and we want to obviously keep donations local with you guys too, because of everything you do. So that's important too. So I will give a shameless plug for Max Raven for donations because they do a ton of stuff, do a ton of stuff to help, even just a couple dollars. Sometimes I'll be like, oh, was I going to go get, an ice cream cone that's going to cost me $6 from my favorite ice cream place. And then I'm like, or could I just throw that $6? It might not seem like a lot, like you're donating $6, but $6 donated to another country's organization is enough sometimes to help fund several mouths of food, so it's
Right.
the stuff there, it's just so much more expensive to buy. So even if you think that your amount is too small, there's no amount too small. They will
Right. It
literally
all
be
adds up, definitely, for
thrilled to have
sure.
a dollar goes a long way. Yeah, when you're adding it all up and a bunch of people in a group each sending a dollar, it all adds up. So don't
Yep.
think that your donation is too small. If you want to forego a coffee for a day and throw it even locally to a rescue, you're still giving them $5 more than they had before that donation. It all adds up.
Right. That's awesome. That's wonderful. Well, did you have more you wanted to share, or do we
Think
need to
so. I
wrap it
think
up?
that's no, I think that's about it for me. I think, oh, I will share one other thing just in the traveling responsibly. If you are doing tours that involve animals, because obviously it's not cruel to horseback ride. There's nothing cruel about horseback riding.
Right.
However, in some countries, they're not taking good care of them because they're too thin and things like
Yeah.
that. So if you can just do a couple searches on the company that you're going to do something like that with, if it involves an animal of any way, shape, or form, please do, because there's two really great companies in Jamaica for horseback riding, and there's some that are not great, and you can see under the reviews and you can see when you Google them. And so I'd encourage people to, check that out before they do anything like that. It's not
Yeah.
cruel. And I would really encourage you not to do dolphin swims as much as your kids might want to. Mine always did when they were little. I said, here's the reason why we're not going to. And they had no part in wanting to once I explained it to them.
Right. I don't think
It's
people
different.
get it until they actually see the
20 years
backstories.
ago, yeah, we didn't know it was cruel 15, 20 years ago. It's kind of like declawing cats. There's a lot of us who maybe did it when
Yeah,
we were little, we
I
didn't
did.
know. But it's not to say that you can't ever do something and change later. Once the more information and education you have, you're never too old to make a change or to
Agree.
just switch your mindset. If you've dolphin swimmed in the past and you didn't know it was cruel, not holding anything against you, just think about it in the future. Just know that it is very, there's just, it's not a way of life for them. But if you can just spread that information to friends and family who might be doing it, it's a lot of times people just don't know. So in summary, all of what I'm saying when it comes to travel and animals and tourism and, even strays and all this, a lot of it just comes back to education. So the more you
Right.
can spread and educate, the more it can help everybody else locally, internationally read about the vacuum effect with cats and understand it. And I think that in itself will help change people's mindset a lot in what they're doing. I will
Yep.
send you all kinds of links to link to
Yep.
to
We
this.
will have them on the end here. And then my always when it comes to these videos is you really need to spay and neuter. This is Lucy, and Lucy is spayed, and she's even ear tipped because she was a TNR kitty at first, but now she's like
She's
super
cute.
lovey. She's
Yeah.
adorable. But make sure you spay and neuter. I mean, there is no bad thing that's going to come of that at all, of you spaying and neutering. So, well, I really appreciate you, Jamie. I
Yeah. Thank
always
you.
have. If you're looking to book a trip and you're an animal lover, support an animal loving travel agency like Vacation Vibes with Jamie, because at least you know the morals and the are up there where they need to be. And we love Jamie.
Oh, thank you.
Jamie's wonderful.
We do donate a lot of money back to the rescues and other and international groups. I don't, publish that. I just don't, but we do take a, certain chunk of money here and there to help out with other rescue groups locally and internationally. So your money still kind of goes back into the community as a good cause, and we'll continue doing what we can to support here and everywhere else that we can, just trying to get the information out and make people's travel more pleasant, to know that other places are taking care of their animals. We will continue to try and fight that fight and see where it gets us, but we'd love to help you out if you need help with any kind of travel.
So, well, I appreciate you and all you do, and I will definitely want to do another one down the road, maybe. One more thing is, you had mentioned something about maybe adding something on your website where you can kind of mention something.
A spot on our website to just kind of really have a lot of this information, because we do it, we talk about it, we spread it within even other travel advisors who have their agencies and trying to promote. There's a lot more coming on board who also won't do animal tourism, which I love. So we're trying to just kind of educationally get a lot of that stuff out there. So might as well have a spot on our website, which is vacationvibestravel.com or just vacationvibes.com. And so coming soon, hopefully by the time you see this, will be a little spot on our website that will also cover a lot of this information as well.
Yep. And if not, don't worry. You always have my email, and we can keep you up to date on it and just keep checking back. All right. Well, thank you, Jamie. You have a wonderful day. And
you too. Thank you. Bye.
All right. Bye.